Welcome to Giant Cocktails, a podcast where two lifelong fans talk about the San Francisco Giants while drinking homemade cocktails. Now, here are your hosts, Ben and Matthew Henry.
Hey there, fans. Welcome to another thrilling episode of Giant Cocktails Midweek Review. I'm your host, Matthew Strike Zone Henry, always aiming to keep our discussions right over the plate. And with me, as always, the Grand Vizier of Viscosity, the mustachioed maestro of mixology himself, Ben, Baron of Bitters and Balls, Henry. I'm sorry, I haven't read this ahead of time. Whose impressive whiskers have been known to filter out the finest infusions and intercept rogue fly balls. Tonight, we're diving into the deep end of the dugout to fetch you the freshest plays and the zestiest cocktails. So, Ben, tell us, what exotic concoctions are hiding behind that glorious stash today? Baron of Bitters and Balls.
What am I doing with my whiskers? Where are my whiskers going?
There's something in them. I don't know.
I'm the Baron of what?
Oh, ChatGPT, you outdid yourself today. Oh man.
I plead the fifth.
Understood.
Look, you know what? Not that there's anything wrong with that, but this is a family show. Okay.
It is.
And I don't know what you asked me. How am I doing? I'm fine, I guess. Sounds like I'm doing great. Sounds like I'm having a great old time, Matthew.
Well, one thing that ChatGPT did notice was the stash.
Yes. Yeah.
You showed up on Zoom and it was this portly middle-aged man with a stash looking back at me like you should be you know what you do? You look like you should be patrolling Nakatomi Plaza on Christmas Eve. You look like you got a uniform with the buttons are popping, you know, like you've got
they're turning my car into Swiss cheese. Yeah, I do look like a middle-aged man with a mustache. I look like somebody's dad. I look like somebody's grandpa, really.
Getting there, yeah. Yeah, you know, it's Mustache May, Matthew. We talked about this on a previous show. In fact, we said we were going to do mustaches and that I was going to shave my beard off. And you said that wasn't a legitimate mustache. How legitimate does it look now? Does it get more legitimate than this? I stand corrected. Yeah. You and Austin Slater. Yeah, just rocking mustaches.
I'm not saying I look good. I'm looking like a man with a mustache, and that's all that matters. You look like a man without a mustache. And that's why the Giants lost today. That's why they've already lost the series, and it's not even over yet.
Because I haven't grown a mustache? Is that?
Yeah,
I thought it was because you forgot to grow your mustache.
I did forget. In fact, when we started recording, when we first sat down to record tonight, we were talking about it. You had the full-on beard. I had the full-on beard, and then I just said, "Excuse me, I need to go do something," and then I came back like this. Because I forgot that it was May, and I forgot to wear my mustache, and I apologize, Giants Nation. That's why the San Francisco Giants lost today. It had nothing to do with Dalton Jeffries and a bullpen game, which, believe me, I think we're going to get into later. But I also, while I'm apologizing, I also want to apologize about yesterday, or Tuesday as we record this podcast. I want to apologize for that loss too, because it was my fault that Logan Webb laid an egg, because I had sung his praises on the previous show. So of course he was going to go out and look horrible.
Of course. That's just the way it works. In the meantime, Ben, what are you drinking today?
Well, Matthew, thank you for asking. Today I am drinking a cocktail called Between the Sheets. This is Between the Sheets' second time on the show. It was originally featured in episode 69.
Nice.
Thank you. And it is a perfect cocktail. It has, well, I made it double. So it has 1.5 ounces of rum. It has 1.5 ounces of cognac. It has 1.5 ounces of Cointreau, and it has 1.5 ounces of lemon juice. You combine all of those ingredients into a shaker with ice, and then you shake it until chilled, and then you strain that into a coupe glass and put in no garnish.
Because you got to go raw when you're going between the sheets.
I was going to say bareback. Is that bad? No. Am I going to have to bleep that out? No. I don't know.
Because, there are some cowboys here, right? That,
That's right. That's when you ride without a saddle.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, you enjoy your double. So, Ben, I am bringing a cocktail today that I made in protest.
Oh.
This cocktail is called Freemason Black. All right.
I like it.
What's in a Freemason Black? Well, it's got 1.5 ounces of rye whiskey, 3/4 ounces of Mr. Black coffee liqueur, and it has to be Mr. Black. Okay. And then it's 1/2 ounce of sweet vermouth, 1/4 ounce of maple syrup, 1 dash of orange bitters, 2 dashes of chocolate bitters. You put all those into a stirring or a mixing glass with ice, and you stir vigorously for about 30 seconds. Strain that into a rocks glass with fresh ice. Garnish it with an orange peel. Express the oils over the top and drop that sucker in, and you have a Freemason Black. And it's a little bitter because that's how I feel.
I think you're more than a little.
And so, but it's actually a really good cocktail. And here's cheers to Mason Black. Cheers. But that's what I'm drinking. That's what I'm drinking today, Ben. Freemason Black.
Well, that sounds like not only a tasty cocktail, but especially an appropriate cocktail. I like this one. I like it a lot. I think it pretty much sets the tone for how we're feeling today, especially you. Folks, we're actually starting the show a little bit early, or a little bit late tonight, because Matthew was hot. He was hot. I mean, he was hot. And like, he's supposed to be going back into his positive trend. And I was like,
starting the month of positivity tomorrow. Okay.
All right. Yeah. Well, you're being positive. You're being positive about a great pitching prospect.
I feel passionate about this prospect. And so I'm a little perturbed, a little upset that they have decided that he and his 1.01 ERA in the minors is not quite good enough. And instead we should have Dalton Jeffries pitch instead.
Right. Okay. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about Mason Black and why he didn't and when will he.
Yes. And
related to that, we're going to talk about the 40-man roster.
Correct.
Because we think that's the only reason.
We think that they're related. I mean, yeah.
The other theory is Farhan is just evil.
Which could be a valid theory.
Yeah. I mean, we saw how he treated Joey Bart. You know, he's like Joey Bart's wicked step grandfather. And now he's giving Mason Black the same treatment. So that's a theory, and then we'll have our lightning round, right?
That's right.
Right, but we haven't said the date yet.
Oh, that's right. So today is Wednesday, May 1st. May Day.
That's right. And usually that's like a labor thing, but that's really Giants fans. It's Giants fans right now. We're calling out May Day. We got to turn this ship around right now. We were on a roll, and now we're not.
Yeah, and you can blame a lot of things, including that damn green monster. I hate that ballpark. I know you're supposed to be feeling all nostalgic for Fenway, but that's like playing like wiffle ball in the streets when you just you hit it over the car, then you get a home run.
Why do I have to feel as nostalgic for Fenway? I don't give a crap about that place.
Baseball fans,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right. And so that's where the Giants are. They are in Boston. They've dropped 2 out of the 2 games that they've played so far to bring their record to 14-17. Matthew, remember just 2 days ago how excited we were
But they were almost to 500.
Yeah. They were almost to 500, and now they've just dunk. They're just back to 3 behind 500. That means they have to split the series with the Phillies, one of the better teams in baseball right now, to have a chance of sweeping the Rockies to get to 500. That's where we are right now. Like, you know, and sweeping the Rockies in Colorado should be a thing that the Giants can do. Knock on wood.
I was going to say, but it is in Colorado, and that hasn't always treated the Giants well.
The Giants have played reasonably well in Colorado, I think.
Recently,
I think you'll be surprised.
Yeah, recently.
More than recently, like 3 years recently.
Yeah. But historically, it hasn't been the greatest.
Whatever. Historically, it's not been good to anybody. My point is, things are not off to a good start on this road trip.
That is a good point.
That's my point.
All right, Ben, I want to read you a quote from Farhan after they signed Matt Chapman. Okay, and this was before they signed Blake Snell, granted, but here is what Farhan said, and it was not the first time we'd heard him say this, but this is a direct quote.
Okay.
Our plan all along has been to give our young pitchers opportunities and to try to create a defense that would support them in their transition. And that's one of the reasons Matt was such a priority. We want to elevate our young pitchers. There's uncertainty that comes from the fact that that there's a lack of familiarity. Young pitchers are definitionally not household names, but we think that the more they get a chance to prove themselves, you sort of have to take the leap with them at some point. And this is something we've been planning for a couple of years, to get younger in our rotation and give these guys the opportunity to win jobs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So having said that,
yeah.
Mason Black is young, 24 years old.
Yeah.
Currently has, as I mentioned, a 1.01 ERA. He has started 6 games in AAA this year and has given up runs in exactly one of them. So,
wow.
So he has 0. So for those who are bad at math, that means he didn't allow any runs in his other 5 starts. Hence his 1.01 ERA. And Dalton Jeffries, on the other hand, is 28 years old. He's had more surgeries than Frankenstein. And we keep throwing him out there like he's the ones that they were so excited about. They're young pitchers to develop.
Right. He's the young guy he's the guy that they were talking about.
Apparently.
That's my first theory, Matthew. They were talking about Dalton Jeffries all along. Like, this was the plan all along, was Dalton Jeffries. Yeah, sure. Birdsong, Whisenhunt, Mason Black, blah, 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 blah. It was always about Dalton Jeffries. And Matthew, what you got to do when you bring up these young 28-year-olds is you got to wait them out. You know, you got to let them get a few starts under their wings so they can find their feet. You know, you're just being too impatient. So that's theory number one. Theory number two, it's not a theory, but, here's my theory about that statement that Farhan made, that quote that you read. Here's what I speak fluent Farhan. I don't know if you know that. And so here's what he actually said.
Okay.
He said, blah, 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 just make a bunch of noise so that they think you're saying something. Then say that the Giants fans are a bunch of idiots. They'll believe anything that comes out of my mouth. They will keep showing up no matter what I do. And I really can't wait to get home to roll in my money. And I'm not going to do anything until those idiots on Giant Cocktails say something that I'm going to then immediately counter. Because I hate those guys. That's what Farhan said. That was really what he said. So I don't know. You know, that was 100%. That was a 100% legit Farhan quote right there. You know.
Okay.
So that's theory number two. Theory number three that I have. Number three. Mason Black wasn't ready to pitch today. They could have moved him around, but they didn't. They forgot or something, and so he pitched yesterday. And so they wanted to have him pitch today, but oops. He was unavailable. That's my other theory. Wait, hang on. Let me check here. checking my notes. Oh, right. Yeah. No, he definitely pitched today. Well, maybe he wasn't, maybe they felt like he wasn't good. Maybe they knew that he was going to have a bad outing in his next outing. So how did he do today? Surely not. Well, he only pitched 4 innings, Matthew. Look, it says right here, 4 innings pitched. Yeah. Clearly bad.
Clearly. He did walk a few, but he struck out 4 and allowed, 1 hit?
No, he allowed no hits, Matthew.
No hits.
He struck out 4 with no hits and 3 walks in 4 innings today when he threw 69 nice pitches. Well, 39 of them were nice pitches. The other ones were balls.
That's what she said.
Which I'm familiar with. Remember from the top of the show.
They're somewhere in Ben's Matthew, mustache. Yeah.
I don't know. It was incompetence that Dalton Jeffries pitched today. It was incompetence.
Right.
I don't know how else to describe it.
I don't understand how. Now, granted, no, I don't want to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm not going to give them the benefit of the doubt on this one. I was going to say something like, well, they've got more information than we do. But you know what? Like the biggest idiots in the world can see that Mason Black is ready to contribute at the major league level. And yet we've got this Dalton Jeffries guy who already got a chance and has blown it. And now we're bringing him up again. And the only reason, Ben, that I can think of is because he's on the 40 man and Mason Black is not.
Well, okay. So first of all.
And Farhan loves his 40 man players.
That's why they're on the 40 man, Matthew. Like, he wouldn't have put them there if he didn't love them.
But see, I can kind of relate to this from my fantasy baseball and football playing days. Like, you do fall in love with your roster. You fall in love with it. You've cultivated it. You found value in that last round pick that's on there. Or you're waiting for them to blossom into the player that you know they're going to be. And then you see the waiver wire pickups. You see the other players who are having really good years, and you're like, no, but as soon as I bring that guy up, and I let this guy go, then that guy's going to have a great year, or he's going to, and so you just do nothing. And it seems like that's what Farhan's doing. And as you mentioned, though, he's making a buttload of money to make those decisions, and he should be making decisions that benefit the team and not make him feel good about his roster. And right now, Mason Black is clearly the guy that should be in that rotation, not Eric Miller to start with Dalton Jeffries following.
Well, this is the same argument that I made when Jeffries made his first start in the Padres series to open the season. Everybody else says about Dalton Jeffries what a great story he is, all the adversity he's been through, all of the things that it's taken him to get there. And I agree with all of that. Look, I don't ever want to forget and pretend like these aren't real human beings trying their best to achieve their dreams. Like, I get that. But at the same time, what they're trying to achieve is inherently difficult. And that's an understatement. It's so difficult, it's nearly impossible to become a Major League Baseball player. And I recognize that they're humans. But the fact of the matter is, when you're performing at this level, you have to be the best of the best. You can't be almost. And Dalton Jeffries right now is almost, and everybody's acting like he's made it. Like, he hasn't finished off the good story, right? It's only a good story when he throws a perfect game, or
that's when the movie gets made. Yes,
that's right. And that's not what's happening here. This is almost a good story. And I'm not saying the man shouldn't be lauded for striving and fighting for his dreams. But what I am saying is that as a fan, that's not what we look for. We look for results. And he's not getting the results.
Right.
And you have a guy out here who you said was ready, and you refuse to put him on the roster. And none of us can figure it out. That's why we're throwing out all of these crazy theories. And yes, you and I are idiots, but you know what? I watched the postgame show with Sean Estes and Alex Pavlovich. And I think Pavlovich is smarter than us. I'm not really sure about Sean. But they were both, it was both clear that they felt like Black needed to be on this roster.
Right. So,
and it's everybody. It's everybody except Farhan Zaidi.
I bet you if you probably asked Bob Melvin, he would say that Mason Black should be on this roster. And I think that it's easy to kind of in a 162 game season to be like, oh, sometimes you just got to play with the guys on the roster because that's what you have and all that. But it's 162 games, granted, but every single one of those matters.
Right.
And how many times when you get down to the end of the season are you one game back or whatever? And so why wouldn't you want to maximize your opportunities at every chance that you could get? Mason Black, and this is like we mentioned last week, this is not one of those, oh, he's getting promoted too soon. He's going to have to get promoted at the end of the season because he'll be Rule 5 draft eligible. Put him on the roster now because you need him. And he's been pitching like lights out. I don't know, man. I don't know why we're even discussing this. This is maddening.
You mentioned that it might be the 40-man roster. So I thought we should go through an exercise, right? Because for those of you who don't know, the 40-man roster has actually more than 40 people on it. It has the people that are on the 40-man roster who are either the 26 guys on the Major League roster plus 14 more who are somewhere else in the organization, usually at AAA, but they could be anywhere. But then it also has anybody who is on the 60-day IL. And right now, the Giants have 5 guys on the 60-day IL. The problem is you can't keep those guys on the 60-day IL indefinitely, even though the Giants tried to do stuff like that last year. The league came down, punished some people on other teams very extremely, and said you cannot play those shenanigans anymore. So when people get healthy, they need to come off the 60-man IL and they go back to the 40-man.
Or they get released.
Right. Or if they don't get released, somebody else needs to be released. So we have a couple of key people who are definitely going to come back that we expect to contribute to the roster later this year. And those are, we have 3 of them, Robbie Ray, Alex Cobb, and Tristan Beck. Not in that order. It's Cobb, Ray, and Beck will probably come back in that order. And so my question for you, Matthew, is what would we do if all 3 of those guys came back, let's say today? Mm-hmm. We would have to make 3 roster spots. Who would you cut?
You want me to name 3?
Yeah. Who are you getting rid of when Alex Cobb comes back?
When Alex Cobb comes back, I'm probably getting rid of Nick Avila first. Like if that's like the corresponding move.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, Nick is worth at least a hit and a half every inning. And oftentimes, that's an average. So a lot of time those hits come in 2s and 3s in an inning. And so Nick is really good for at least a run every other inning. And that is not major league quality. So yes, I agree. That's an easy one.
Yes.
Okay. So we could have gotten rid of Nick Avila to have Mason Black. Right? We could have. We didn't, but we could have. Okay. But moving on, let's say now Robbie Ray comes back. Okay. Late July, early August. Who are you getting rid of now?
Just because of recency bias and I don't like him, I'd say Dalton Jeffries.
Yeah, okay. I agree with that. Dalton Jeffries. Okay, now Tristan Beck comes back.
I'm getting rid of Kai-Wei Tang.
Okay. See, and this is where the problem is. Because I think that Farhan could probably say goodbye to those 2 guys. Like, I believe, like, Dalton Jeffries, like, I think it's clear, like, he's a good story, but he's just not working out. Nick Avila, he's a placeholder. I think that Farhan would be able to say goodbye to those guys. I think that's it. Like, I don't think he could say goodbye to Kai-Wei Tang. Like, remember how you were talking about, your favorite guys on your fantasy football team roster? I think Kai-Wei Tang is one of those guys, right? He was that sleeper pick that he knows is just going to hit it. And he cannot bear to let him go. And I think that is true for every other name on this roster. And that's why we're not seeing him make these changes, because he doesn't want to pull those triggers. Because once you get rid of Avila and once you get rid of Jeffries, then you start to have to cut deeper than he wants to cut. And I know there's people out there like Brett Wisely, like I'd be okay with that. I don't think anybody who listens to this show doubts that. But, a lot of people still remember those 2 home runs he hit in February of last year, and they still get excited about the kid. So they're not ready to give that up. Farhan likes him because he can play multiple positions. Not well, but he can do it. You know, I guess he's a lesser Tyler Fitzgerald at this point.
Poor man's Tyler Fitzgerald.
You know, but what happens if Fitzgerald gets hurt, right? And that's the other question. Like, what happens if somebody gets hurt now when all of those guys have come back and they have to go on to the 10 or 15 day IL, and it's different for pitchers and position players, which list they go on. But neither of those removes you from the 40-man roster. So now you're in a situation where if you don't have the pieces on your 40-man that you feel will fill those holes, now you have to cut somebody else. And I feel like that's where Farhan thinks he is. Now, you and I don't agree. Like, we think that there are hard decisions that could be made here, but he's not ready to make them. And that's the only thing that makes sense.
He's not ready to make them, but it doesn't make sense because you've got guys that have had plenty of opportunities. Sean Jelly is another one, right? I mean, I would be okay if it was Sean Jelly instead of Dalton Jeffries. Like, I think that they're one and the same. I think that these guys I think there was a lot of hope for them. Sean Jelly has had multiple opportunities. He hasn't started a game in the major leagues, actually. All of his opportunities have been out of the bullpen. But he's got like a 6 ERA, you know, and sure, his expected numbers I'm sure are better than that, and that's why he's sticking around. But Mason Black is a guy that you drafted and developed and is ready, and one of those guys has to be less important than Mason Black. You can't convince me that it's not. And so less than Robbie Ray, and less than Tristan Beck, and less than Alex Cobb. Like, all of those guys are better than some of these guys on the 40. And it's his own doing, right? He signed these guys. He brought them on. You got to know that you got to make this decision. So just make it already.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it really does feel like he just is afraid to make these moves, or he's just super in love with these edge moves that he's making. There's another name that I look at is Mitch White, who's on the major league roster right now. Mitch White, to me, strikes me as a guy that was just a placeholder. But instead, no, they bring him up to the major league roster right away, and they start putting him in games. And I don't know how he pitched. I don't remember how he pitched today, because I know he did pitch today, but his other one outing looked exactly like his outings from Toronto, which is multiple hits and walks and multiple runs, which he's done in every single outing this year except one when he gave up 1 run. Oh no, excuse me. He gave up 0 runs in his first outing on March 31st for the Blue Jays. So it's a mystery. Like, it's a mystery. It makes no sense. And I think it's borderline incompetence, because they're losing these games. Like, I don't think there was a person out there that felt like Dalton Jeffries was the better choice than Mason Black today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Well, and
except Farhan Zaidi, and they lost the game. Now, maybe he thought both of them were going to lose, and so it doesn't matter. That's the only, I mean, it's a weird attitude to have.
Well, I'm going to go back to that quote where he says, you sort of have to take a leap of faith with them at some point. Yes, you sort of do. Mm-hmm. And
well, you know what, Matthew? I sort of have to, like, get off my butt and take risks and follow my dreams. But I'm also sitting here in my closet, and my dreams are running away from me. So it's one thing to say it. It's another thing to do it.
Oh, man, I didn't know we were going to get this deep today.
Well, maybe Farhan just can't do it.
Maybe
he can't take the leap of faith. He knows he needs to, but he can't. Sad. Maybe we should have some compassion for him.
Sure.
No, we shouldn't.
Oh, well, because if he doesn't want the job, somebody else will take it. That's for sure.
This was incompetence today. And hopefully they right this wrong on Monday, the last game in the Philadelphia series, which, by the way, is a weird series. It starts on a Friday and it ends on a Monday.
It's time for a lightning round.
All right, let's do it. So, Mustache May, Austin Slater looking like the Lorax. But Tom Murphy hit a home run today. Is Mustache May working for Tom Murphy?
Yes, Mustache May is definitely working for Tom Murphy. That's the only reason he hit the home run today. And you might think, well, he should have shaved it off before, but no, that's not how it works. It has to be a mustache. It has to be May. But this is what kickstarts him along the way. He's going to become the best hitting backup catcher in Major League Baseball. And you, Matthew, will be relieved. All right. The rest of us won't care because he's the backup catcher.
Jorge Soler says he hasn't been doing his job. Can you think of any other comment that would be more factual than that?
No. Well, so yeah, what he said was, I don't really read what the writers are writing or listen to the fans very much, but I will agree that I'm not doing my job. So he doesn't need the fans to tell him that. He knows. So that's right. Good. That's good.
I did notice that he's not participating in Mustache May. He's keeping the goatee.
Oh, I see. Yeah, well, let's see if he keeps whiffing when runners are on and hits his occasional home run, when they're losing 16-0.
All right, wrap it up here. Yaz in Boston. It's always fun to see him playing at Fenway and getting the ovations and all that whenever his name's called out. So that begs the question, Ben, on a cocktail show, to wrap this up, does Mike Yastrzemski buy his own drinks in Boston?
No, never.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. He just says, I'm Carl's grandson and a major leaguer, and boom. Free drinks.
All right. I'm changing my name to Yastrzemski.
That's not how that works, but sure. Okay. Oh, that brings us to the end of today's show, folks. The Giants play one more game in Boston, and then they have that weird wraparound series in Philadelphia. Let's hope that they do better against the Phillies than they're doing against the Red Sox, even though the Phillies are a better team. Oh, hold on to your butts, folks. This road trip could be a doozy. Anyway, and that's a wrap on the midweek review, folks. Thank you for joining us. We will be back on Monday with the big show, where the cocktails will be stronger and the rants will be longer. If you can't wait that long to get your fix, feel free to reach out to us on the social medias. You can find us in Zuckland, aka Instagram and Threads, where we go by the username Giant Cocktails. You can also find us on the Twitter, formerly known as Twitter, and Mastodon at the same username. Don't forget, you can also listen to us on YouTube, so run over there to like, subscribe, and comment. But most importantly, be sure to leave us a positive review, like 5 stars positive. If it's not 5 stars, it's not positive. At your podcasting platform of choice, aka Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
Close enough.
Or yeah, you know what I mean. Matthew, you were ornery today. Keep up the good work. Cheers, my friend.
Cheers, Ben. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Freemason Black.
Thank you for listening to the Giant Cocktails Podcast. Until next time, bottoms up.
You had to get the last word in. You just had to.
It's important. I'm living up to my cause. Freemason Black. See my notes down here. The very first note I put on here was yesterday after Landon Roop added a changeup and he looked really good. And I was like, Landon Roop adds a changeup and it changes everything. That's all the only note I put in there. And then he gets demoted.
It changes everything. He's getting a change of scenery.
Exactly. Change of scenery changes everything. Going back to Sacramento.